Good afternoon. I am Mary McGowan, Executive Director of the Myositis Association. I want to thank you for joining this afternoon's webinar on autoimmune disease and nutrition. Today's topic was one of the most frequently requested webinar topics in our previous post-webinar evaluations. I'm very excited to announce that we have 520 people registered for today's webinar. We are honored to be introducing two wonderful speakers for today's educational event who will speak directly to your request for more information on this topic. Just a quick bit of housekeeping before we get started. Phones will be muted throughout the presentation. However, we encourage you to ask questions. There is a chat box located at the bottom of your screen. You can type your questions into this box at any time throughout the presentation. We will have a question and answer period after both presenters are done speaking. This webinar will be recorded and will live on our website for future reference. For those of you who are not familiar with the Myositis Association, also known as TMA, I want to take a few minutes to briefly introduce TMA and to highlight a few of our successes for 2019. Next slide, please. The Myositis Association is the leading international nonprofit association supporting those living with myositis, their care partners, and medical community and researchers who care for them. We were founded in 1993 by a patient who was living with IBM. Her name was Betty Curie. You see her photo in the top right corner of this slide. She began the organization with 12 patients, and since then it has grown to an international organization reaching thousands of patients and clinicians worldwide. In 2018, TMA celebrated its 25th anniversary, and we are now an international collaborator of researchers advancing discoveries. Next slide, please. So it's a five-pronged approach to what TMA does. We educate myositis patients, care partners, and clinicians. We support patients and care partners and the medical community. We're located in Alexandria, Virginia, just across from Washington, D.C., where we advocate for research and policies that meet the needs of patients. We fund critical research seeking better understanding and new treatments and ultimately a cure for myositis diseases. And of course, we increase awareness of myositis internationally. Next slide, please. So just a few quick highlights from our successes for 2019. We added nearly 2,000 new members to the organization. We held 30 support group meetings in the last year. We had a 25% increase of applications for our research grants. We published 21 articles with the press to raise awareness about myositis diseases and TMA. We held the second largest annual patient conference in the history of TMA with 531 attendees, 96 sessions, and 76 speakers. We hope you all can join us at the upcoming September 2020 annual patient conference just outside of Seattle, Washington this year. We had 14 speaking opportunities. This was international speaking opportunities. We reached over 5 million people during Myositis Awareness Month. We had a special campaign on women of color and myositis. And our esteemed medical advisory board conducted 6 visiting professor programs at hospitals and universities across the globe. I invite you all to visit our homepage, myositis.org, to view our new corporate video just launched this month for additional information on the Myositis Association and our efforts. Now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Dr. Renee Lantner. Renee is a patient with dermatomyositis, a physician and former TMA board member. She became very interested in nutrition as a means to help her journey with dermatomyositis. Thank you, Renee, for presenting on today's webinar.
Thank you for that nice introduction, Mary. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm hoping there might be some familiar voices, or my voice is familiar to some people that are on the webinar. Let's go to the next slide, and we can get my part started. My party started too. So my journey with dermatomyositis is a pretty long one. I'm not going to give you all of my background, but I wanted to talk here, obviously, about how nutrition has affected me and how it's helped me as well. Next slide, please. So I'm currently 60, but I had severe symptoms when I was 30, and unfortunately I didn't present in the exact way that doctors would have liked, so I wasn't properly diagnosed and actually never got treated at all and went into remission very oddly on its own after several months, but I was left with severe muscle weakness and loss, and it eventually came back very, very slowly. And then 12 years ago, it came back kind of with a vengeance, and then it was pretty obvious what I had. And I ended up getting treated, and I'm still on treatment now, and I'm doing okay, but it never went back into remission. So my muscles, which for those of you who have myositis know that's the pretty devastating part of the disease, especially those of us who get it acutely, meaning like I couldn't stand up, I couldn't pick up my arms, doing anything minimally was exhausting. And that improved with prednisone, the drug we love to hate and hate to love, because it did provide fairly quick relief, but I was on it for many months. And then when I was able enough, I started doing a lot of strength training, which I still do today. And I am happy to say that muscle-wise, I'm doing well. But as many of us know with dermatomyositis, the skin disease is really the hardest thing to treat. And that's where I'm still having some challenges and have gone through multiple things. And I'm still trying to find the perfect thing. Next slide, please. So along the way, as many of us who are dealing with a chronic illness, I was getting sad, frustrated, losing hope at some point that things were never going to get better for me. And because I am a physician and obviously have some science background, and I've also always loved to cook and have an interest in nutrition and food, I thought maybe I could start looking at that a little bit better. And one of the first things I knew is that when I got started on the prednisone, I really had to watch my carbohydrate and sugar intake because I knew that that would be a problem. I'm someone who prescribes it frequently for my patients, and I'm very familiar with the side effects. So I was kind of terrified of gaining weight. As it was, I got the pretty fat face that we call the moon face, and I didn't want to have a really hard time with weight gain. So I was very, very careful about what I ate, and not surprisingly, I tried to stay away from the sweets and the other carbs, and I really tried to focus more on lean protein and fruits and vegetables. But in addition, as I mentioned, I was getting pretty frustrated with the multiple medications that weren't really providing any help, and I was having some GI problems as well that were probably unrelated, but I didn't know. So I wanted to help myself. And I ended up going to 2 national nutrition conferences, and that were fairly life-changing for me. They were actually only offered for people in the medical field. So it's not something that everybody could take advantage of, but certainly there are educational places to it, and if you, or to do online if you want to learn more about nutrition. And those conferences were very eye-opening for me as a patient, and also helped me with my patients as well as a physician. Next slide, please. So with early on in my dealings with the Myositis Association, I think I had only been a member for a year. And at one of the meetings, I was really looking forward to hearing a nutrition talk, and it turned out Rosemary Istry, who's a member, was unable to attend because she wasn't feeling well. And when the announcement was made, everyone was fairly disappointed. And so I stepped up and said, well, I certainly don't have anything prepared, but maybe I could moderate and we could just chit chat about our experiences. And that turned into me being asked to do speaking for the myositis annual conferences. And I did it for a few years. And I think many, if not all of my prior conference, annual conference presentations are on the myositis.org website, where they are cataloged and archived. But in general, I got so interested that I started doing a lot of research and reading and wanting to prepare for these conference discussions. So that not only helped me in my own journey, but I hope it helped other people too, as I was able to present some of that information at the conferences and as we're doing now today. Next slide, please. So one of the things that I learned early on, and I use this also in my own medical practice, is that autoimmune diseases are frequently associated with low vitamin D levels. And I was really shocked to find out how low my level was. It was a little embarrassing. And not that going back on vitamin D fixed my problem, but it did fix other issues that I was having trouble with. So that in and of itself was just kind of a nice thing to learn. And so anybody who has an autoimmune disease, especially people like us with dermatomyositis or polymyositis, and if those of us are unfortunate enough to have other things like thyroid disorders or lupus, et cetera, rheumatoid arthritis, those are things we should make sure we have a good vitamin D level. And separately, I was having tremendous trouble with my GI tract, my gastrointestinal tract. So I finally stopped eating wheat, and that really made a huge difference for me. I do not have celiac disease, and as we may discuss later, there is no such thing as a test for food sensitivity to wheat or any other food unless it's a true allergy. But I knew that just eliminating it helped me, so I stopped that. And for whatever reason, I'm pleased to announce now I can tolerate some and it doesn't bother me as much, but of course, we still all have to watch it for the calories. And then just not surprisingly, just eating better, I felt better. And as I usually say with all of my talks, we can get other stuff too. We can get heart disease, we can get arthritis, we can get diabetes, hypertension. So I just wanted to stay healthy, and I wanted to keep everything else at bay so I didn't have to worry about more problems on top of it. And I wanted to stay healthy, of course, because I wanted to be able to continue to exercise and build more muscle. And in case I ever had a relapse, I'd have a little bit more cushion with more muscle mass. And the other thing that I've known in practicing for years is that people who are overweight, because of the virtue of all the inflammation that arises from the fat cells, a lot of medications do not work effectively or hardly at all the more that we gain weight. And the irony for a lot of these autoimmune diseases or inflammation diseases is that one of the best things for a lot of these is prednisone or something like it. And prednisone, as we all know, can cause weight gain. And then there's more inflammation. And so there's more problems. So you get more prednisone or something else. So many drugs have been known for a long time not to work effectively if someone is overweight. So that's even another reason to try to lose weight for any condition you're on for multiple reasons. Next slide, please. So the bad news is there is no diet or supplement that will cure myositis. And like a lot of chronic diseases, we just hope for the best management possible for our symptoms until a cure is reached, which we're all hoping for, of course. But as I said, we're all possibly going to get other things. We can't pick our parents or our genetic makeup, so we might get other things. So we have to just stay as healthy as we can. And I'm sure Susan will talk about this too in her discussion, but I do try to follow what I preach. And so I do eat a mostly plant-based diet, but I do eat poultry and fish. I do like eating beans and other low-fat proteins like lentils, etc. I try my best to limit any what we call the white carbohydrates, the white, I used to call it fight the white and eat the rainbow. I really don't have fried foods at all because they don't make me feel well. And I think we all know sugary drinks because of the high fructose corn syrup are just evil and bad. And, you know, if we overeat and we don't feel good, it's probably not something we should be eating on a regular basis. And as Susan will probably address too, a registered dietitian can be really helpful. And I think she'll touch on some of those things too. And unfortunately, like I said, I don't think any of us should expect a supplement to cure myositis, but it certainly can, in some situations that we might get into more detail about, if it's not harmful, it's not costing you an arm and a leg, and it doesn't interact with any of your other medications, it's probably worth giving it a try. But unfortunately, there isn't a lot of data to support lots and lots of supplements, but I know we always like to keep our hope. And I don't think there's another slide, but let's check. Nope, that's it. Okay, thank you very much. And I'll look forward to helping answer any questions in the future.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Renee. We greatly appreciate you sharing your personal story and sharing that important information, and also for the presentations and education that you have provided at TMA's annual patient conferences. We greatly appreciate you helping us to continue educating the myositis community about this important topic of autoimmune disease and nutrition. I would now like to introduce Susan Whitaker, a registered dietitian for the MDA clinic at the University of Kansas Medical Center for 18 years and for the ALS clinic at KU for the last 12 years. Susan was a speaker at our regional conference in Kansas City last year, focusing on nutrition and the anti-inflammatory diet. Thank you so much, Susan, for sharing your expertise with us again today.
Hello, and I want to just thank everybody for listening today and being here. Thank you, Dr. Latner, for that great intro. And I always say that I always learn more from my patients and helping others. So I appreciate you giving your firsthand experience. Next slide, please. This is what I really want to talk about today is myositis, the anti-inflammatory diet. And what I really want to get into is what practical ideas can you use to incorporate this diet in your life? If you're like me, we've probably listened to lots of webinars and you've gone out of them thinking, okay, now what can I do? Today, I want you to have some practical ideas that you can use to put these ideas into your life. Next slide, please. Just going to look at a couple of things, look at this anti-inflammatory diet that you've probably heard all about, touch briefly on the dietary supplements that are good, and then, like I said before, try to do some of these practical ideas on how to make the anti-inflammatory diet part of your lifestyle. Next slide, please. Now, you've probably heard about this anti-inflammatory diet, Mediterranean diet. It is the same thing. Why do we talk about that with autoimmune diseases such as myositis? What we have found is through research with this diet is we found that it decreases anti-inflammatory markers in the body, and this leads to less inflammation and better symptom control. It also can help with weight loss and maintenance, and Dr. Latner did a good job of saying that maintaining your weight helps with muscles, and it also helps with other symptoms you might have. This diet also helps some with mood stabilization and brain health. It's been studied a lot with Alzheimer's and other neurological diseases. So it affects more than just the myositis that you might have going on in your life. Next slide, please. There's certain dietary supplements that sometimes are used with autoimmune disease. Dr. Latner, she brought up a good point, and I use it a lot too, is there's not a lot of good quality research out there. There's a lot of good anecdotal research of people that have told us maybe what has happened for them. But I use the same way of thinking of things. I always say, if it's not terribly expensive and it's not going to hurt you, if we don't know for sure if it helps you, I always encourage people, if they do want to take them, then supplements, then it's a good thing. Calcium is a very important supplement for people with myositis to take, especially if you're on prednisone. Prednisone is very much known to decrease bone density, and so calcium is very important to take. You might look at the calcium supplements and you might say, what do I take? There's so many. Calcium carbonate is a good supplement to take. It is cheaper than a lot of the other supplements, and you have to take a smaller pill or less pills to get it done. Vitamin D is needed for good calcium absorption. Many times you'll notice that some of the pills, they might come in multiples where the vitamin D and the calcium is together, so that's a good way to do it. Folic acid is important for a lot of people to take, especially if you're on methotrexate. Methotrexate is known to, is caused for you to decrease folic acid. So you don't want to take too much folic acid, but it's definitely something to talk about with your doctor. We'll talk about omega-3 fatty acids later. Very good to get them in your diet by eating foods that contain them. But for some people, they might not like those foods, or it's hard to get enough foods that have the omega-3 fatty acids. So some people will take supplements, and the supplements that are on that picture there are a good example of omega-3 fatty acid. And then a probiotic is a good supplement that I recommend everybody take because it does help with intestinal inflammation. Next slide, please. Again, like I said, we're talking about this Mediterranean diet, anti-inflammatory diet. It's the same thing. One thing I really want to emphasize is it's not so much a diet as maybe a change in your lifestyle. It's a change of thinking about food. People that follow this lifestyle, they tend to eat food with others. They slow down when they're eating, and they focus more on the quality of the food more than the quantity of a food. Another thing to remember is I have a lot of people ask me, well, what specific food should I eat for the anti-inflammatory diet? And I always like to say, you know, one specific food doesn't make up a difference. It's really this diet as a whole and dealing with lifestyle changes. Next slide, please. This Mediterranean diet, anti-inflammatory diet, it was after World War II, the Ansel Keys and some other researchers, they studied the health of men from different countries. And what they were looking at is cardiovascular health to begin with. Why cardiovascular? It was a big part after World War II, and they were looking for that. And what they found that the people from the area around the Mediterranean Sea, they were found to have better health. And one reason that they found that they had better health is they had decreased inflammation markers. Inflammation markers are big in many diseases, especially myositis, but it is important in cardiovascular health also. So this diet, has actually been studied many times, and it is one of the few that's been found to decrease inflammation, and it will help many diseases. Next slide, please. So what is this Mediterranean diet? It's high in foods that fight inflammation. One of the main things is it does avoid lots of processed foods and includes more fresh foods. It talks about eating lots of fruits and vegetables. Dr. Latner talked about eating the rainbow, so eating lots of colors of fruits and vegetables. One of the main things that they do is they use lots of olive oil in that region. And olive oil is made up of a fat that is the good fat for you, has more of the omega-3 fatty acids and less of those omega-6. It's got a moderate amount of lean protein, especially fish, less sugar and processed sugar, and more exercise and activity. And if you think about back to what Dr. Latner said worked for her and her lifestyle, these are some of the things that she has done, and they're working for her. Next slide, please. One thing that's important to learn is the difference between omega-3 fatty acids and omega-6 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids, you'll find those a lot in salmon, sardines, fortified eggs. There's eggs that you can buy that are omega-3 fatty acid fortified, chia seeds, flax seeds, and then olive oil. The omega-6 fatty acids are found more in those processed foods. So that's why there's an emphasis on more fresh foods. The reason we look at these omega-3 fatty acids, they are non-inflammatory, and the omega-6, they increase inflammatory. Next slide, please. Okay, so it's a great diet plan. A lot of people have told me how to do it. So how do I follow it? So I looked up a couple of references and resources, and one of the real good ones I found was it's a website called oldways.com. This is a nonprofit group that has studied the Mediterranean diet and have lots of great resources and practical resources for people to follow. They have some good shopping lists of, so when you go to the grocery store, what should you eat? Also, there's an article in today's dietitian article. It's from May 2012, and you may think that's pretty old when it comes to things like that, but actually everything in it is pertinent to today's standards and everything we're doing today. Next question, please. Next slide, please. Sorry. Old Ways has this Mediterranean diet pyramid on their website, and I wanted to show you what it does is I wanted to encourage you to look at the bottom of the pyramid. You'll notice as a pyramid is, the bottom is always bigger and it goes up toward the top and gets smaller. It encourages physical activity on the bottom. Now, I know some people, physical activity can vary, but as Dr. Latner said, doing as much as you can is very important. And it starts with the fruits and vegetables and the lean grains, and then it goes up to the top where it has the meats and the sweets in the less variety. And if you think about the diet that most Americans that we follow today, we probably follow a very much inverted pyramid than this. And that is why I just wanted to show you this from the Old Ways site. Next slide, please. What's one way that you can try to follow this diet? For one thing is cooking more. Now, most of you I know are thinking, great, I'm tired already. I'm wore out. I've either worked all day, I've done things, my muscles are hurting. Well, some ways that you can help to get around that is to maybe buy more pre-prepared foods. So maybe that the fruits and vegetables are already cut up for you. We're trying to do things ahead of time. So maybe like I do on Sundays, I'll try to fix several meals and then have them pre-made out and in my refrigerator so that when you come home and you're really tired, that you can have a good, healthy, delicious meal without having to feel more tired fixing that. One thing I think is important is food does not have to be organic. Organic can be very expensive, and I know a lot of us are on maybe a limited, economics, and it's hard to get organic in some areas too. So I think you just having to try to focus on the fruits and vegetables. I think one thing that's really important, I went to a supermarket shop education once, and they talked about eating around the outside perimeter of the supermarket. So if you come into the supermarket, if you think about it, if you go around the outside, that's where all the fresh fruits and vegetables and meats and breads and grains are. So trying to do that would be a great thing. Next slide, please. So I told you to eat less meat. How do you do that? One thing is, have meat be not the main part of your meal, but have it be a part of it. So for instance, having a salad and putting strips of lean meat on it, fixing pasta and having some lean meat in it. A lot of people will do stir fries and they'll have the lots of fruits and vegetables and a little bit of chicken or a little bit of lean meats in there. But the main part of your meal is the fruits and vegetables. Try to eat seafoods twice per week. Fresh is best, but I know fresh can be expensive. And if you're like me I am from Kansas City, I'm landlocked. We don't get much good fresh seafood. So frozen can be okay. Canned is okay too, such as tuna and salmon, but you want to make sure it's packed in water and not oil. And then trying to cook some vegetarian meals more often. I know some people, especially here in the Midwest, it's a meat and potatoes. When I tell them to try to do some more vegetarian meals, they look at me like I'm crazy. But trying to use more beans, nuts, legumes, tofu is a good thing. Trying to use more of those things to get more protein, and they are often more cheaper also. Next slide. Trying to eat lots of fruits and vegetables. Again, fresh is best, but frozen is just as fine. You don't lose any kinds of vitamin or minerals when they freeze them. If you're going to use canned, which I know some of us have to, especially fruit, you can use it packed in water, its own juice. Or if you're using canned vegetables, make sure it's a lower sodium version. We talked about eating that variety of fruits and vegetables, trying to, eat the rainbow of vegetables. I know some people tell me they eat lots of fruits and vegetables, but when I have them write them down, look at them, they're all orange or they're all green. We get different vitamins and minerals in different colors of fruits and vegetables, so it's good to mix that up. And it's best to not just have juices in your diet, but try to have the fruits and vegetables because you get a lot more nutrition and fiber from them. We've got a picture here of an avocado. Avocados are a great food to add to your diet. They're a high fat, but it's a fat that's very very healthy, very good for you, eaten a lot in the Mediterranean diet. And so avocados can be a great source of nutrition. Next slide, please. Some people enjoy this when I tell them, but enjoy red wine in moderation. If you think of that region, they do drink wine. The thing that is important is moderation is the key. And most of the time they drink it with a meal, and they're drinking very slow and drinking it with food. And trying to encourage you to drink more water than soda and coffee. Also, cheese and yogurt are good. I know we've had a lot of questions and a lot of people ask me, well, what about dairy? What about milk? Dairy, unfortunately, does a lot of times increase inflammation in a lot of people. Yogurt is one of those that's one of the dairies that doesn't do that quite as often, and especially the Greek yogurt. And they do have like lower fat versions of the Greek yogurt. Trying to eat more whole grain bread and brown rice products. I know Dr. Latner, we mentioned gluten-free, and I know we've had some questions on that we'll address later on, but a whole grain bread and brown rice is a good product. And try to limit the amount of sweets you eat. Notice this doesn't say avoid, because anytime I tell somebody to try to avoid things, the first thing you want to eat is that food. In the Mediterranean area, they use fruit as desserts a lot more often. One thing a lot of people usually like when I say it is dark chocolate is a good thing. Now the thing to remember is you want a minimum of 70% cocoa. So you want that real dark chocolate. And then nuts are encouraged. Walnuts, cashews, almonds, and then all the butters and the milks that are made from those. Next slide, please. Now, I know a lot of us eat 3 meals a day, and I have a lot of people ask, well, what about snacks? What I have found, especially with patients with any kind of muscle disease, is your muscles need glucose. They need fuel. So it's not good for patients to go and skip meals or go all day, don't eat much breakfast, don't eat much lunch, and eat a lot for dinner. So I like to put up some snacks that could be a good idea that could still fit in a diet plan. Again, it comes back to those nuts. A lot of times it's portion sizes, and some of us grab too much nuts. So one thing I like to do is encourage people to have the little prepackaged bags of nuts, because those are already split up for you. Fruit, baby carrots, grapes. You'll see Greek yogurt. Again, I mentioned that's a good thing. And apple slices with almond butter. Coming back to some of those nuts that are a little bit more healthier for you. Next slide, please. I wanted to just touch back real quick on the Old Ways site that I had mentioned earlier. They have this great shopping list that is on there. It's a good reference when you're trying to plan meals and visits to the grocery store, because I know a lot of times I will go to the grocery store and I'm like, I do not know what to buy. The shopping list does a good job about splitting the food into vegetables section, fruit section, beans, and everything else. And it just lists food that are healthy in that area and helps you know maybe what to buy when you do go to the grocery store. Next slide, please. So going back to it, it's this great diet plan. How do I follow it? I hope I've gave you some topics, some ideas that can help you with this. One of the main thing I like to tell people though is moderation is the key. Anything that I've told you here, too much of a good thing is too much. If you eat too much fruits and vegetables, it's too much. So you really have to look at that moderation. Monitoring portion sizes. Again, it's coming back to looking at that quality of food and flavors more than the quantity, and eating, too much. And I also like to talk about, doing anything is better than nothing. I have some people say, well, I can't do this. I can't do this whole diet. It's too overwhelming. Pick something and start with it. So maybe you start with using olive oil as in your diet, and then you start adding more fish into your diet. So trying to ease into it to where it's not so overwhelming. I want to thank all of you for letting me talk today and be here, and look forward to answering some questions and hopefully getting to talk to you more in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan. That was a wonderful presentation, and we are so thankful that you were able to be here to join us today. We will now begin our question and answer session, and I am Tricia Shivas. I'm the Director of Development and Strategic Partnerships here at the Myositis Association, and I'll be helping to facilitate the Q&A section. As a reminder to everyone, you can ask your questions today by typing your questions into the chat box, which is at the bottom of your screen, and we've been getting lots of wonderful questions throughout the entire section. I do see some people that have been raising their hands. As a reminder, we will not be able to facilitate questions through hand raising, so if you do have any questions that you would like to ask, please do type your question into the chat box that is at the bottom of your screen, and that will be how we are able to facilitate questions today. I will start with some of the questions that came in throughout the session, and I will also remind everyone that TMA does have an autoimmune and nutrition infographic on our website at www.myositis.org, and it has some helpful tips for anyone that would like to go onto our website and download that. So Susan, I'll start with you. One of the questions that we received was, being on prednisone has increased my appetite significantly. Do you have any recommendations on how I might satiate my appetite? And Renee, please feel free to chime in as well.
Yes, that's a very good question and something that I get asked about a lot. It's a very hard thing. I think one thing is, if you're trying to do fruits and vegetables and lean proteins keep you full longer than carbohydrates. And so trying to keep that in your diet. Another thing I've tried to encourage people is to do other things besides eating, such as chewing gum or moving around and doing some other things to keep yourself busy to help with that appetite, because it will make you want to eat better. And then trying to avoid a little bit of less salt, because it does make you swell. And the more salt we have in our diet, the more that you swell. So trying to do a lower sodium diet. Those are some things that I touch on. Dr. Latner, do you have any other suggestions?
Those are all really great ones. I mean, like I said myself, I had to kind of pare things back because I have a terrible sweet tooth and I knew the prednisone was going to make me crazy hungry. Luckily for me, I love vegetables and fruit, and as Susan mentioned, when you have the whole fruit or vegetable, you're getting the fiber with it too, and eating slowly I think really helps. Also filling up first with something like broth or some green tea or something just kind of fills up your stomach so you're not as hungry. And just try to focus on the healthy stuff, knowing that if you don't, you may end up with more problems than you started with. It's tough though. I was on it for a long time and it was a struggle, but I was determined not to get fat.
Great, thank you both. We've been getting a lot of questions about the gluten and how you determine the use of gluten. So there's a lot of questions about, do you have to go completely gluten-free? Does gluten tend to impact inflammation? Do you recommend a gluten-free diet? So Renee, do you want to respond? And then of course, Susan, if you have anything you would like to add, we'd like to hear that as well.
Sure, I'll take that. So this comes up a lot, and as everyone listening probably is aware, the whole gluten-free, gluten inflammation thing has been a big deal for several years now. There have been books written on it. Celebrities have gotten involved. The medical community has been trying to keep up with it, and many of us are aware of celiac disease, which is an autoimmune disease. It's not common at all. It's a real disease, and it can be very devastating if you're not picked up with it. But that one has very specific diagnostic criteria between blood work and more specifically getting a biopsy of the small intestine, and that is a medical condition. There's a new term called non-celiac gluten sensitivity, which is what I think I had, at least for a while. It seems to have miraculously gotten better. And unfortunately, there is no test for that. Over the many years as a physician, I've seen people come in with test results that they've gotten from some semi-medical practitioners who have run blood work. Many of them are called IgG tests, which are frankly completely worthless. They're not medically sound, and they're usually not covered by insurance. So those things are what people use to try to pick up food sensitivities, and there's just no scientific backing to them at all. But to get it back to the gluten specifically, there have been studies looking at a gluten-free diet in all forms of myositis, meaning dermatomyositis, polymyositis, and inclusion body myositis. And in some cases, again, there's not tons of data because we all are a fairly rare group anyway, and no one's going to really, there's no money in doing a study like this. So a lot of it's somewhat anecdotal. But in the studies that have been done with small numbers of patients in every category, many people did get better. And then the question is, well, is it completely gluten-free? Can I cheat once in a while? And I don't think anybody knows the answer to that. If you want to really try going gluten-free, then you probably would do best to follow the advice that people with celiac disease get. And you could see a dietitian like Susan, or there are places online that can give you some information. But people with celiac disease have to be very strict about it. With me, what I did just on a personal level is I went off of it, and my GI symptoms improved immeasurably. It was just like night and day. And then I got so tired of not having a brownie that at one point I just tried and nothing happened. And so I could sneak it once in a while. It never made my myositis completely go away. But again, I have more skin problems than muscle. So for those of you who are still struggling with muscle problems, it's probably worthwhile to try it. But you probably have to give it weeks, if not months, to see if it really made a difference.
I definitely agree with Dr. Latner. It's a very hard, complex diet to follow. And sometimes I get concerns that they limit foods too much. But what I tend to encourage and see a lot of people do is cut out a lot of the processed white gluten sugars that are in there, such as like white bread, white pasta, white rice and stuff like that. And I've seen that, I think, improve symptoms and not be quite as restrictive as following a true gluten-free diet.
Great. We're getting a lot of questions about as far as weight loss and challenges for weight loss, and a lot of people asking about the ketogenic diet and whether that is a good alternative to the autoimmune diet, and also the autoimmune protocol diet and how that plays in with the Mediterranean diet. Can you possibly, Susan, can you explain the differences between all these different diets? And Renee, of course, weigh in.
Yes, the keto diet is I guess I would say a new fad that is out there. And really what a keto diet is very, very low amounts of glucose, high amounts of carbs and fat. And you actually put your body into a ketoacidosis where it uses fat to make energy. This is something that I worry a lot about because it is a very restrictive diet. In this diet, you're not really allowed to eat hardly any fruits and vegetables because there are carbs in fruits and vegetables. And so it limits that a lot. And we don't know a long-term how this is going to really, it's not been studied long-term. So I don't know how that's going to affect on the cardiovascular. I always say with patients that have any kind of muscle disease, I'd like you to have some carbohydrates because your muscles need those. And so the keto diet really, it worries me. I do not know much about what exactly the auto-inflammatory diet is. That
Autoimmune protocol diet. It's AIP, and I might have said that wrong. I can kind of go up and get it again. Sorry.
Renee, do you know more about that one, or?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the distinguishing features. I know that there's been a lot of stuff lately. It's sort of another fad too about the lectins and legumes and beans and nuts and stuff being horrible for you. And that whole lectin thing is a little bit out there too. And like with anything, I mean, genetically, we're all different. And what's really frustrating for patients and for those of us that take care of patients and our patients, like myself being both, there really are no good tests for this. And some of these fad diets, like kind of the keto diet, like Susan was explaining, it's not healthy long-term for sure. And what's troubling for everybody is that there is no way anybody's going to do a study looking at thousands of people with any disease, let alone something rare as ours. So for people that say that legumes and grains are horrible for you, is probably not true, but there are going to be people that don't respond to things as well as others. And I think along the line of the questions that I can see popping up too, people were saying questions like, well, is the only way to figure out what you're sensitive to is to just kind of try it alone and kind of prepare with a fast before it or something. And that seems very dramatic and strenuous, but it might be the only way to tell. Like if you keep everything else the same and you start eating a lot of lentils and you feel badly, then that might be something that doesn't agree with you, but there's unfortunately no test for that. Back to you.
Great, thank you so much. So we've also gotten quite a few questions about creatine. I might be saying that wrong. Creatine, is that how you said it, yes. Renee? Okay, creatine, and its recommendations with regard to folks who are living with IBM.
Oh, do you want me to take that one?
Yes, and
sure,
then of course,
great.
and Susan, please weigh in if you have thoughts on that.
Sure. Yeah, well, the first thing that a lot of people get confused about is that most of us with myositis, we've had our CK or our CPK, it's the same thing, which is creatinine kinase. And that's a waste product that the kidney gets rid of. And that's not what we're talking about. This is creatine. It's only 3 syllables instead of 4. And it is a supplement, and it actually was shown to be helpful. Unfortunately, not for IBM, but it was shown to be helpful for polymyositis and dermatomyositis once a loading dose of like 8 grams was given for a while, and then a maintenance dose of 3 grams per day. And that was actually confirmed in studies done by Ingrid Lundberg, who's a rheumatologist out of Sweden, and found that it was helpful. I personally tried it. I was just super lazy and I just didn't stick with it. So the only problem is that you have to do it with exercise. Very, very rarely it can cause kidney problems, but generally if someone has normal kidney function, it shouldn't be an issue. But the positive effects of it go away when you stop taking it. So it's not like a cure, and you have to combine it with exercise. Susan, anything you want to add?
Yes, just reiterating what you said too, we don't think that it necessarily hurts people, but there hasn't been that good research to show it. And you do have to have that exercise and the muscle taken at the same time for it really to work the best.
We've also gotten a lot of questions about vitamins and how vitamin supplements being confusing. We've heard people say that they don't know which vitamins to take. Is a multivitamin okay? That sometimes there's news media around a vitamin being okay one day and then not okay the next day. Do you have any particular recommendations on which supplements are best for autoimmune disease?
Susan, you want to take that?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I am a big proponent of a general multivitamin. I think that's a good thing for all of us. I think vitamins are a very hard thing. They're a hard thing for patients, and they're a hard thing for us practitioners because there's not a lot of tried and true research out there. And there's not a lot of regulations on vitamins. So just because they say they are one thing, they're not FDA regulated, doesn't exactly mean that that's what they are. So I think, when you're looking for recommendations, another important thing is to make sure you get quality sites, some medical, Mayo, reputable universities with big hospitals. Because if you get on there and you type myositis and vitamins, you could find some recommendations by all kinds of people. And some people might call themselves a nutritionist. Some people might call themselves a homeopathic doctor, and they might not have exactly the training maybe that Dr. Latner and I do. So you really do have to be a little bit of careful where you get that information.
And I'll jump on that a little bit too. And I want to reiterate also what Susan said. So if my understanding is that anybody, I mean, technically I'm a nutritionist because I just talked to you about nutrition, but I have no formal training. And so, you know, like the trainer at the gym, if they, you know, like to have their smoothies and tell people to take smoothies or creatine powder or whatever, or whey powder, they're technically a nutritionist. But a registered dietitian, which is what Susan is, they have immense training and they really know what they're talking about. The other thing I wanted to mention earlier, and actually I have to thank one of the attendees at the Myositis conference many years ago who turned me on to this. There's a website, consumerlab.com, not Consumer Reports, but Consumer Lab, there's no S at the end, .com. And that is a really great website. You have to pay a nominal fee once a year. It's not that much. And they review supplements, including dietary things, not specifically for myositis. In fact, there may be nothing about myositis on any of these reviews, but they tend to do reviews of multiple brands of things. And they also give fairly up-to-date information if there's a study that's been done showing something works, doesn't work, side effects, whatever, interactions with medications you might be on. And I use that not only for personal reasons, but also for some of my patients. As much as I obviously, with very due respect to Susan, the one thing I just wanted to mention about multivitamins is that the majority of the multivitamin, why they're so big generally, and Susan, please jump in if I'm saying this incorrectly, is that most of it's calcium. And there have been some concerns over the last few years about too much calcium in the diet affecting cardiac health. And part of that is because, and again, I'd love Susan to after I'm done saying this, comment on it too, that because many of us, whether we are having dairy or we just have a lot of vegetables that have calcium in them, we're getting some calcium in our diet also. And if we're overdoing that with a supplement on top of it, it might be leading to too much calcium, which may not be a good idea, particularly if you have kidney issues as well. So that's one thing I would be careful about. I think all of us know, and Susan touched on this, if you're on methotrexate, which I was on for a long time, you need to take folic acid so it doesn't mess up your blood counts and other things. And finally, like I mentioned earlier, vitamin D, especially for those of us in the colder parts of the year that never see any sun. And for those of us with dermatomyositis who are not supposed to go in the sun, the only way to really get our vitamin D is through supplementation. And again, it doesn't cure the problem, but it does help other things, including, I should have mentioned, infection control. People with low vitamin D levels tend to have higher levels of infection rates. But Susan, did you want to mention anything about the calcium?
No, it is a very good thing to remember, because calcium levels, yes, they could be too high. That's one reason that sometimes I like a general multivitamin, because it provides 100% of what you need, but it doesn't provide excess. And sometimes, especially if you're eating a really good, healthy, well-balanced diet, you probably are getting more, especially of vitamins and minerals. Calcium is one of those it's a little harder because this diet sometimes discourages dairy, except for the cheeses and stuff. But you do have to watch that some of those vitamins can build up in your body and cause problems. Some of them, if we take in too much of them, then we just excess goes out in our urine. So you have to make sure that we're, working with your doctor. Another thing is to make sure your doctor knows that you're on those vitamins and supplements. So if you go in, I know sometimes they might say, I don't want to know anything about it. I don't know, but everybody should know what you're on, because some vitamins and supplements can interfere with medications that you're on.
Great, thank you. We also got a question about, with the Mediterranean diet, there is a lot of both beans, which sometimes can cause gastrointestinal issues, and for some people who are on blood thinners can be a challenge. Susan, do you have any thoughts on how people that have to balance these other challenges or health issues that they have to have, how do they try to deal with having or wanting to engage the Mediterranean diet and these other health issues that they have?
Yeah, that is a very good question. You know, unfortunately, a lot of us don't have just maybe one disease. We have other things. If we're on blood thinners, you do have to watch vitamin K foods, and a lot of those vitamin K foods are found in some vegetables. Most of the time, they're like your green leafy vegetables, such as kale, spinach, broccoli, stuff like that. The main thing with vitamin K in food is you want a consistent level of food intake of vitamin K. So you don't want to automatically one week eat tons of these vegetables and then the next week eat nothing, because that will affect your vitamin K and your blood levels. So a lot of times we try to say if you're going to eat these vegetables, consistently try to eat them. But as you can say, you know, that is quite a bit of vegetables to miss, but there's still lots of other fruits and vegetables of the Mediterranean diet that you could have and avoid these kinds that have the vitamin K in them. Another thing that comes up is cardiovascular health. This is the Mediterranean diet is a great way to help with that cardiovascular health. And help those inflammation markers there.
Okay, great. Well, we are coming up on the end of our webinar. We have lots of questions, and it does seem like this is a topic that will be something that we would want to revisit in future webinars. And I just want to say thank you so much to all of our wonderful people that engaged on this webinar, who attended the webinar, and to our wonderful speakers who were here. And I'm going to go to the next slides. We do have some other really wonderful things coming up in partnership with the Myositis Association and some of our other partners, the FDA, the Every Life Foundation and RDLA, NIH and NORD. We have Rare Disease Week coming up at the end of February. So if you have any interest in participating in this, please do keep this in mind. It is February 24th through the 29th, and there's lots of really great events that are coming up, some which, if you cannot come to DC, you can participate through live streaming in some of these. And if you are able to come through to DC, you can participate and engage with us in that way. And we hope you will be able to participate. So keep an eye out and reach out to us on that. We also have a really exciting event. We want to have you all save the date. May 8th. Is the date coming up. We will be having our first ever inaugural virtual summit. And this is an opportunity to engage in what is like a conference from your homes. So you'll have 8 educational presentations, virtual exhibit booths, virtual networking, and educational resources for one day. It's a one-day conference. It's going to be an opportunity to engage from your home, from the computer. And it will be a really exciting opportunity. And we're going to give you more information. In about a week, you'll hear more from this. So keep an eye out. We'll have more information on our website coming up. We don't have information now, but it will be coming up soon. You know, keep an eye out for this upcoming exciting opportunity to engage, for this one-day opportunity to engage with us. And please remember, if you have enjoyed this opportunity to engage in our post-webinar evaluation, this is how we learned that you all wanted to hear more about autoimmune disease and nutrition. And so we take your post-evaluations very seriously, as you can tell. So please fill out your post-webinar evaluation that we will be sending out. And then, you know, we always post all of our recorded webinars onto our website under our library and under webinars, so you'll be able to find them there. And if you are not currently a member of TMA, please join up. It is free to join, and you'll be able to find out about additional educational information that we have, like this particular educational seminar that you heard today. And thank you again, everyone, for joining.